Hello and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport and our third Let's Watch Formula E Season 3 of the weekend. It won't always be like this, it's only because we had the Paris round and then 2 Berlins, and I thought it'd just be easier to get these 3 out of the way, and then we have a couple of double rounds to end the year. So we are going for the second race in Berlin. The first one was pretty damn good, a very exciting race, with Felix Rosenqvist in the Mahindra beating Lucas Di Grassi and Nick Heidfeld. Sebastian Buemi was of course excluded from the results, and that tightens the championship up nicely. So with no changes to the grid to discuss, let's jump straight into this look at the 8th race of the 3rd season of Formula E in Berlin.
Berlin E-Prix is underway, and the pole position man Felix Rosenqvist heads the charge in the red and white Mahindra. The Berg and Lopez twosome again, the purple DS Virgin cars wheel to wheel.
Buemi is slow through turn 1 there and allowed Felix Rosenqvist to just take off. And look at it, Concertina as they go into turn 3. There'll be some damage there.
There's your race leader, Buemi in second, then Bird and Lopez third and fourth. They're still 2 by 2 and damage.
And they're 3 wide.
Yeah. Well, the Andretti's went 3 wide around somebody into turn 2.
One of the Andretti cars is missing its front wing.
That's not necessarily a major handicap. This is not an aero-dependent championship.
Oh, more contact. Maro Engel.
Well, this has all the looks of today's E-race on the electric racing simulators. So much contact in lap 1.
Settling down a bit into 9, Nico Prost going defensive, or was he looking at a pass from Daniel Abt?
Yeah, I think he was trying to defend against the Jaguar I-Type behind him. That will have been Mitch Evans. So Sebastian Buemi already, Dario, trying to protect battery and tyre temperature?
I would hope so, otherwise Felix Rosenqvist has an incredible advantage on pure pace. He's gone.
So for the first time in a few races we did get a lot of contact on the first lap. There were bits flying everywhere, and one of the Dragons was yet again the one to suffer in that first lap. Honestly, this has been a completely disastrous season for Dragon, and they were pretty good last year, well, in Season 2. Felix Rosenqvist leads the way again, and he's already building a bit of a gap ahead of Buemi, who had a bit of a slow start, and the 2 Virgins, who are once again right up the top of the field. Lucas Di Grassi a little bit further back.
And then the regeneration starting as the note changes. And we've got a pass.
Yes.
Lucas Di Grassi
Goes by Oliver Turvey.
Turvey's trying to go back through turn. It's coming up to turn 8 now. Didn't do it.
Turvey trying to save a little bit of energy there, perhaps early in the race. Lucas Di Grassi pounced immediately. Di Grassi can't allow Buemi to go away.
Going for it too.
Yeah, now as Oliver Turvey got a problem in that next EV Neo car because he's got Prost right behind.
They have said that they're really struggling with their energy efficiency in these conditions. Their car is not really designed, the powertrain and the setup they run on this car is not designed for this type of track. It's more designed for a more traditional, shorter, bumpier street course type Formula E track.
So again, we are getting the overtakes in Berlin. Both Abt Audis have moved past Oliver Turvey in the Neo, but the real mover is Nick Heidfeld in the Mahindra, who has moved up from last to 14th in just 5 laps. There is some real pace in that Mahindra at Berlin.
51% down to 50%, but the leader only with 53%. So for all the progress, he's still maybe only half a lap in debt.
And again, the difference between the first 2 and what the other guys are doing, that's carrying that momentum when you're not using the energy. It's when you're off throttle, and you have to have a very positive car if the car turns really well, because otherwise you've got to stay on the brakes here, for instance, is stay on the brakes to get the front end of the car to turn. Whereas if it's working well and the front is turning, you can make lap time and save energy.
What they're doing here is not just driving a race car between the walls, patting their stomach and rubbing their stomach and patting their head. They're also juggling chainsaws on a unicycle. There's so many things they have to deal with in these cars, all at the same time, not independently.
And that's when the engineer can really help to that relationship between the engineers. We're on board with Mitch Evans, P10, and coming up to turn 7 here.
And his mirrors right now are full of Nick Heidfeld.
So I have jumped ahead quite a bit because there hasn't really been too much going on. There's a lot of energy saving and strategy. It's looking quite tight between 3rd and 10th, maybe 11th. Nick Heidfeld is just on the outside of the points. He is doing an amazing job, and his energy is around about the same as everyone around him. We're just over a quarter of the way through this race, so there's still plenty of time to go. We're about halfway to the pit stops. And out front, Rosenqvist and Buemi have pulled a massive gap to the rest of the field behind them. So the real battle is between really third down towards the bottom end of the top 10.
The car's the same, the chassis is the same, the powertrain unit between the two is the same, and so it's personal preference that makes the choice. Bird goes long around the outside. Lopez is still there. Do not hit your teammate.
Oh, no.
It's rule 1 of racing.
The golden rule, and Bird's lost a couple of places, and you could hear Lopez was saving, he lifted and coasted, so Sam got back on the throttle, so Lopez got back on the throttle, and we saw what happened, and that wasn't smart, boys.
Not only did Sam and Petito almost end their races, but they allowed 2 cars ahead of Bird.
Sam's not going to be happy.
Yeah, good move, Petito.
Sam Bird can blame Lopez for that one all he wants, but it was never really on. It was a bit of a desperate dive around the outside, and Lopez has every right to show him the door. It's dirty on the outside, Bird lost it. There was contact between them as well, so it was a very scary moment for the Virgin team, and it has hampered Sam Bird's race. Not too much going on. Again, we have mostly been energy saving. Heifeld has made up another place past Evans into the top 10. That's where the excitement has been. We haven't really seen anything of the cars outside the top 10, but it's the usual suspects struggling. And out in front, Rosenqvist and Buemi, we haven't really seen them either. They're so far ahead.
Watch his head though, as he drove down the straight. Rosenqvist was looking in the mirrors left, looking in the mirrors right, just checking that gap. He doesn't want to be caught by surprise, as you say, Mark. It definitely caught Lucas de Grassi by surprise yesterday when Felix Rosenqvist went past.
Now, this is lap 22 of 46. We guesstimate, don't we? We expect that much of the field will come in after 23 laps, because that's the halfway point of what is going to be the longest Formula E race in its history so far.
We're going to be close to an hour. The rule is an hour plus a lap, and if there's a safety car, yeah, we're going to have a...
Where's Nick Heidfeld? Down to 13th place now. Antonio Felix da Costa has moved by him. Hopefully this is not a repeat of the problem he had earlier. He's got 7% usable energy, same as Buemi.
He's brought it back to sort of parity with the guys around him and the guys ahead of him, so maybe he had to do that to make the next lap. Oh, Lucas de Grassi locking up. Is that because the regeneration demands are different and the brake balance has shifted? It looks like it, and it cost him out a little bit there.
I was going to suggest maybe Renault Edams were splitting their strategies. Have Sebastian Buemi blast out front, running like a rabbit with Felix Rosenqvist, while Nico Cross stayed further back, but yet they're at the same point in terms of usable energy, so I guess not. They're just running the best race they can.
Exactly, and sorry to say this to Nico Cross, but it shows that Buemi is doing a better job. And
we should be heading into the pits very shortly. Not much has really changed over the last few laps, although Nick Heifeld has dropped back down again. I don't know if that's more of a heating issue. Maybe the battery's overheating and he's had to cool it down. But he's on about the same energy as everyone else, despite pushing really hard early on. So maybe it was just to get him back on track with everybody else. Rosenqvist and Buemi out in front of a 10-second gap back to Verne. I don't think they're going to be troubled for first or second in this race. The Virgins have dropped like stones. They were running third and fourth, but after they made contact, they're now 6th and 8th. Prost is struggling a lot more than his teammate is. He's down in 7th. The Abt Audis are 4th and 5th. Verne is 3rd. And we do still have Turvey and Evans in the points, but barely. They got Jerome D'Ambrosio in the Dragon chasing them. So maybe there are points on offer for Dragon. But we are only about halfway through this race. This was the longest Formula E race of the time, and there's plenty of action still to go.
There's the arrow taped on the floor to direct the driver into a position out of the way of his second car.
Buemi's ready to go. He's closest to the exit. Oh, the Mahindras trip over each other. Exactly what Rosenqvist didn't need, but he's still in front of Buemi. Buemi can't be released across his bows. So somehow, now the penalty. If Jean-Eric Verne got a penalty for an unsafe release yesterday, then absolutely Rosenqvist must get one. Whether it was his teammate or not, there was almost a pit lane collision.
Mahindra were doing so well, and they've nearly blown it all in the pit lane. They almost hit each other. And Rosenqvist is almost guaranteed to get a podium, so he's either got to put a gap to Buemi, or he's likely not to finish in first in this race. That is such a huge shame, and shocking team management. I'm sure someone could have told Heidfeld to slow it down a little bit.
And generally, if they're investigating you, it means it's pinged up on their data as you were under so it's now going back to Tim Schenken and the stewards.
It's generally done automatically, isn't it? It's not a sort of a judgment call. Nick Heidfeld at this point has more usable power than the sort of usable energy than the leader.
Time reminder, Bob, that nobody has yet used their fan boost. All 3 fan boost available cars are in the top 5.
Don't you know Sebastian Buemi is just keeping his powder dry right now. Close behind Felix Rosenqvist, waiting for the decision of the stewards, and he has the fan boost.
Yeah, I think what you saw there was Dilbag Gill saying, tell Felix to make a gap to 3rd place, or to make a gap to even 2nd place, tell him to get after it, which is easier said than done without running yourself out of energy. And it looked like Jean-Paul Trio in the Renault was saying, why is he still out there?
Yeah, how come they haven't penalised us? They penalised us for not running legal tyre pressures.
So you hear this, he's lifting and coasting, but he's going to get off the brakes and run into the corner, try and close that gap down to Felix Rosenqvist, who's trying to have exactly the opposite effect. He wants to get clear, get away from Sebastian Buemi and Jean-Eric Vergne, so even if he does have a 5-second penalty, he's still on the podium at this point. Damage limitation, that's what he's trying to do. You see the heads up, you see how early he's going to lift into turn 6, but how gently he's going to brake into turn 7. Sorry, braking for turn 6.
Right now, you're sitting at home going, okay, I'm Sebastian Buemi, there's the race leader, I've got fan boost, why don't I just go buy him?
Because it uses energy.
But that's free. The fan boost is free energy that few of the other rivals will have.
He wants to wait, and he wants to use it at the right point.
Right, where he is right now, he doesn't need it.
Why risk it at this point? He's 29 laps and 46, 18 to go. Let's just see how things settle down. He's in a position. He's in the right position.
We are still waiting to hear on that Rosenqvist penalty, but Buemi is now pushing really hard behind him. A lot of talk about the fan boost, which, would you believe it, it went to Buemi, Di Grassi and Abt again. Completely unfair, completely pointless. But it doesn't matter because it doesn't exist anymore. But back then, it was a blight on the racing. And the fact they keep mentioning it is actually quite annoying. Nothing really going on right now. The gaps between cars, they are quite spread in this race. It's not as exciting as the first race in Berlin. But we are sort of just waiting for stuff to happen now.
38 hundredths of a second at the line.
Pretty inefficient use of fan boost. And there's Di Grassi again. Look how loose it Jean-Eric got. And he's going to
gets in really deep.
What a move.
Abt wasn't close enough to do what he wanted to do, which was slip through the open gap as well.
That was what we talked about all weekend with that turn 1. If that happened, and it was textbook. He forced Lucas Di Grassi, forced Jean-Eric Vergne into a mistake, and Daniel Abt is now thinking, right, I'm going to have you too.
And what have we seen with Vergne's car all the way through? The longer he runs, the looser it gets at the back.
Here we go. Wow. Defensive from Jean-Eric. Lucas comes in. Now this is what. Look at Jean-Eric Vergne. He's offline. He's oversteering, and he can't make the corner. That was a really sweet pass from Lucas Di Grassi.
That was the sucker punch.
Watch as Jean-Eric Vergne tries to brake. Look at it. No, it's not going to happen. Just perfect. And then he gets on the dirty part of the track, and it's all gone from there.
Well, Sandberg cleaned it up a little bit with Chito Lopez, but not enough.
Clearly not enough.
You might have heard the roar from the grandstand. A lot of the Schaeffler employees have come to the race both yesterday and today to cheer on their men from the Audi Schaeffler.
Abt's on fan boost, so guess who he's having to go at? He's going to have to go at Jean-Eric Vergne right now.
There they are.
Around the outside, Vergne's going to fight it, contact.
Daniel tried to squeeze in there. That was not the smart move because Jean-Eric doesn't have to give you that position.
Yes. Yeah. At point, it's a long way round the outside there. Back around the outside and back around the outside.
And they've got the same amount of usable energy right now.
A great battle between the Audis and Jean-Eric Vergne. Di Grassi nearly actually collected him before he finally got past. And it was a mistake by Vergne. He just sort of lost control a little bit and went wide. Daniel Abt trying the outside move. Got a bit close. I don't know if it was contact or not, but he could not follow his teammate through. And we have about 13 laps left, so there's plenty of time for that battle to get spicy.
It's been a pretty wretched weekend in terms of performance for Faraday Future Dragon Racing. Lloyd Duval circulating on a test mission, and a drive-through penalty for Jerome D'Ambrosio will take him out of the points.
And Nico Prost starting to fight with the rear end of that Renault Edam's car. Rear tyres they're probably getting a little warm. and we're seeing the result again out of turn 10, just fighting to put the power down. And as you said earlier, that problem is not going to get better at this point.
Radial tyres like going in a straight line. They're very, very good at that. They're not very good at being pushed sideways across the road. That's really their least favourite thing. And the more you do it, the more they overheat. The more they overheat, the more they do it.
Well, they don't like to do two things at once, that's a given.
Well, we're all the same there. Jean-Eric Verne is the stopper in the bottle again, isn't he? And this Techeetah, which is losing its edge as the race progresses.
Less than 10 laps left. Rosenqvist still leads, but he has a 10-second penalty. With Buemi just behind him, that means that Rosenqvist is basically not going to win this race unless something really big happens to Buemi. Behind them, the Audis, they're a bit too far back to challenge, but they are both third and fourth, so they're doing pretty well. And then we have a train of cars from Verne with the Virgins behind and Prost. None of them really able to make a move on each other, so it's kind of just stuck as it is right now. D'Ambrosio is 10th and in for points for Dragon, but he has a drive-through, unfortunately, so it looks like Dragon are going to score no points again. But that does mean Heidfeld will sneak into the points. We have 9 laps left, I believe, and we'll see how this race ends.
But he is slow. So what is causing the problem? Is he just overslowing the corner to counteract that oversteer? And Lopez is close, but I don't want to be close here. I want to be close exiting this next right-hander to set. And he's doing it. Here we go. He's going to have a go.
Right around the outside.
Have some of that.
Proper block pass there as well. That was a good move.
Yeah, it can be, but if the guy behind you, the guy who just passed, misses his braking point, he's going to take you both out. So that is a very risky pass, but it worked. And now watch Lopez. Is he going to drive away?
Well, Sam Bird now has to try and produce exactly the same move. Tito's race engineer Thomas Gomis, who was with him
713.
through all the Citroën World Touring Car Championship years. 3 straight FIA World Touring Car Championship titles. Here's Jerome D'Ambrosio taking that drive through, and that then puts Heidfeld into 10th position. Back up into the points. His beer money is safe, still on the desk, waiting to buy him a beer.
You're going to buy him a beer?
I'm going to buy him a beer if I see him in a bar.
5 laps left, and the big battle on track for the end of this race is the battle for 5th. Lopez has got past Jean-Eric Verne. We've seen some great performances from Verne in 2017, but that Techeetah car does seem to struggle to keep that level of performance going throughout the entire race. Behind him, Bird and Prost are waiting in the wings to try at their hand at getting past as well. Other than that, we haven't really seen much of anyone else, and Buemi and Rosenqvist are still way out in front. They have a big gap back to De Grassi, so De Grassi might not jump Rosenqvist even after the 10-second penalty. And even if he does manage to get within 10 seconds, I don't think Daniel Abt will. So we have some intrigue going into the last 5 laps. Who's going to finish 5th is the big one.
Yesterday's race would be over by now, and we're into uncharted territory. There's 2 laps to go.
2 laps to go, 10 seconds a year, 10% of usable energy for Felix Rosenqvist, Sebastian Buemi and the rest, and that's just about what we need.
Just about what we need, but if I'm Jean-Eric Verne, as I get closer to the end of this race, I'm going to get more robust in my defence, so it's even harder for Sam Bird to make that pass.
And Verne, let's see where Verne goes to 9%. Bird goes to 9% first. De Grassi, Buemi rather, still trying to close on Rosenqvist, and there's a slower car in front.
Did you see though how much through that corner that Felix Rosenqvist just slid the car, beautifully slid through that chicane? He's absolutely on the limit, and he said yesterday, Lucas De Grassi, yeah, he's not hanging about. Daniel Abt behind him, but Rosenqvist said, I enjoyed every lap of it. Yeah, and you can see he's just driving the car with such, verve.
And you have to enjoy it to get the best out of yourself and get the best out of the car.
Last lap, number 46. I'll be interested to hear what the Mahindra team says about that release, because when the Techeetah team did it yesterday, we decided it was because they were down at the end of the pit lane and might not have been able to see oncoming traffic. Mahindra, a couple of pit spots away, don't have that rationale. So it'll be interesting to hear why the team looked so shocked when Nick Heidfeld suddenly arrived.
Well, half a lap to go for Felix Rosenqvist. He's got enough energy to get to the line, but a 10-second penalty weighing him down, and that means although he will be first at the checker, it is Sebastian Buemi who's in second place who will get the points.
And he hasn't put a wheel wrong all day. all weekend he has not put a wheel wrong. Actually, in qualifying for race 1, he bounced it off that curb, but that is it. Otherwise, fabulous race.
And keep in mind, once again, those two absolutely separated themselves from the rest of the runners.
Yeah.
And yet
Massively.
here they are with sufficient power
Man,
to
you
get to the
nailed the
end.
race. I have to tell you, congratulations, you nailed the race. You won from P1 till the end.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry for the penalty. We got a 10 seconds penalty because the unsafe release. Di Grassi is crossing the finish line 12 seconds behind you. So you are P2, but anyway, unbelievable, amazing drive for you.
Oh, and look at the last corner. Prost having a tilt at Sam Bird, doesn't quite get there. Now, we didn't see whether Bird had just had a lunge at Jean-Eric Verne that was repulsed. And yeah, as you said, Dario, you win as a team, you lose as a team. Yeah.
Felix Rosenqvist takes the checkered flag for the second time at Berlin in 2017, but unfortunately he doesn't get to keep his victory. That goes to Sebastian Buemi, who was allowed to keep his result this time round. Lucas Di Grassi, though, is the real winner this weekend because he has managed to gain points on Buemi massively, and the title fight is really on now. And because Buemi's going to miss a couple of rounds, Di Grassi technically has a huge advantage, although he'll need to score points when those rounds come up. As for everyone else, it pretty much stayed the same. Di Grassi in out to 3rd and 4th, Lopez 5th, Verne 6th, Bird 7th, Prost 8th, and then Turvey and Heidfeld finished up the points. Brilliant drive from both those guys, especially Heidfeld, who started last. And again, another clean race from Berlin, no safety cars, no crashes, and yet it was not quite as exciting as the first Berlin race. It was still pretty good, it was still better than Paris. So, with that, let's check the teams and drivers' standings after the second Berlin E-Prix of 2017. EDAMS lead the team's standings, but Abt Audi have caught up over the course of both Berlin races. Mahindra though are the ones who have made massive gains, with Virgin and Techeetah rounding out the top 5. Sebastian Buemi's lead has been halved. Felix Rosenqvist moves up to 3rd ahead of Nico Prost, and Nick Heidfeld in the other Mahindra is in 5th place. So they were both Berlin races of Formula E from 2017. This will be the last one for a couple of weeks until we go to Tokyo in 2024. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, leave your thoughts down below in the comments. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good one.